Honorable député de Hochelaga.
The
Honourable Member for Hochelaga on a point of order. I think if you seek it, you'll find there's unanimous consent for the following motion. At the end of debate today on the opposition motion, in the name of the member for Saskatoon West, all questions necessary to dispose of the motion be put to a vote, and that a recorded division be deemed to deferred to the end of question period next Tuesday, at the end of question period. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I didn't have my microphone.
L'honorable député a-t-elle...
Does the honourable member have the consent of the House to move the motion?
Yes. Yes?
Nick, what are you doing, man?
Carried. Excuse, la Chambre a entendu les...
The House has heard the terms of the motion. Is it the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion? Agreed? Agreed and so carried.
Statement by members, déclaration des députés, l'honorable député de Repentigny.
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. The government spent $1 billion too much to buy the Trans Mountain Pipeline because it didn't negotiate, and that's the crux of the issue, Madam Speaker. It didn't negotiate because when the oil industry demands, Ottawa says yes. Always yes, and always right away. Alberta wants new rail cars for billions of dollars? Yes. Alberta wants pipelines to export its dirty oil? Yes. Alberta wants money to speed up the development of oil sands? Well, the only thing that Ottawa asks is how much? The federal government always says yes, and right away, because oil is our Canadian identity, because oil is a condition for Canadian unity. So that's the basket that Ottawa puts all its eggs in, or rather all our eggs. That's Canada. And either you buy into that vision, or we organize to do something else. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Fredericton.
In Fredericton, no children's birthday party, trip to the North Side Market, or visit to Science East was complete without seeing Pearly the Magician. For over 30 years, Pearly Palmer delighted kids and adults alike with his warmth and wonder. In December, we lost Pearly to cancer, and Fredericton lost a beacon of joy. His laughter and delight spanned generations. Parents would watch their own children be wowed by tricks that Pearly had performed for them back when they were kids. À Fredericton, le 13 juillet est proclamé la journée.
July 13th is a day in her honor.
Pour apprécier cet homme magique qui prenait toujours le temps à faire un tour de magie pour
That's a day when we think of all those children. There's nothing better than seeing children with their eyes wide open and watching that magic.
Children and grandchildren for sharing Pearly's incredible gifts with our community for generations.
The honourable member for Calgary-Shepherd.
Maranatha. That would be a familiar greeting to anyone who knew Pastor Quinn Davis, who passed away from cancer December 12th of last year. Warm, cheerful, encouraging, and pious, and Pastor Quinn, the Rocky Mountain Calvary Chapel congregation, had it all. Pastor Glenn would describe him, and I'm quoting here, a glass of fresh water when you are parched. He loved Peru and especially Lima from his many ministry visits, always armed with candy for the kids. Quinn had no dimmer switch. On or off were his only settings. He would tell you exactly what you needed to hear. Sometimes he knew what needed to be said before the question was even asked. I ask all members to join me in this House in offering our sincerest condolences to his wife of 29 years, Pam, and to his daughters, Kirsten and Jesselyn. Pastor Quinn is not lost to us. He has simply gone ahead to the kingdom of God. Mr. Speaker, Maranatha.
Honourable Member for Malpeque.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to celebrate the life of former MP Mel Gass, who recently passed away. Mel, a businessman, was elected 3 times as a progressive conservative and served the riding of Malpeque for 9 years with distinction. As a member of several committees, Mel felt truly honoured to lay a wreath at Dieppe as Chair of Veterans Affairs, and especially enjoyed his time as Parliamentary Secretary to Fisheries and Oceans. I can sincerely say he stood up for fishermen in Canada and in his community. In 1989, Mel served as leader of the provincial PC party. Returning to private life, he continued to operate Silverwood Motel, served as a local councillor, as well as president of the Tourism Association of PEI, and was granted several awards for his work in tourism. Affected with ALS light in recent years, he retained his good humour and sense of good nature. His love of life, people and community always showed through for the proud Canadian he was. Our condolences to his family.
For Essex.
As Black History Month begins, the theme across Canada this year is Black Canadian Youth, boundless, rooted, and proud, highlighting the importance of providing youth with positive role models, celebrating the achievements of people of African descent throughout Canadian history, and learning what we can from their stories of overcoming. In our region of Windsor-Essex, we have a powerful history of more than 30,000 former enslaved people of African descent who freed themselves and made their way to freedom in Canada, sometimes with help from the Underground Railroad operatives, but often relying on their own intelligence, critical thinking, courage, and determination. Mary Ann Shadd, born a free person of African descent in Delaware, moved to Windsor in 1851, where she opened Windsor's first black school. She is the first woman in Canada and the first woman of African descent in North America to publish a newspaper, the Provincial Freeman. Elijah McCoy, who was born to formerly enslaved parents in Colchester in 1843, went on to become one of North America's greatest inventors, with 57 patents in his name. This year we lost former New Democrat Dr. Howard McCurdy, who was Canada's second black member of Parliament. This month, as we celebrate, I encourage all Canadians to learn about our rich black history by sharing stories of incredible Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Brome-Missisquoi. Mr. Speaker, the protection of Lake Memphremagog continues to be a high priority issue for me. On January 22nd, there was a hearing in Newport, Vermont on the Coventry landfill site expansion. The fact that the landfill is upstream from Lake Memphremagog is of great concern to an increasing number of people in Magog and Sherbrooke. What I'd like to highlight about this is that this hearing showed that more and more people are worried about this situation. Elected municipal, provincial, and federal officials, as well as organizations and Canadian American citizens, have shown that they care about water quality in Lake Memphremagog. I'd like to say thank you to Robert Benoit, and let's continue to mobilize in order to ensure clean water for future generations. Thank you.
Moose Mountain.
Speaker, I rise today to pay tribute to Francis Frank Goudon, a Métis World War II veteran and extraordinary Canadian who passed away on January 12th. Mr. Goudon joined the Canadian Forces in 1942, and on June 6, 1944, he landed on Juno Beach with the Royal Winnipeg Rifles. He was taken prisoner and was put in a concentration and labor camp. Thankfully, with liberation, he returned to Canada in 1945. In 2014, he returned to the beaches of Normandy for the 70th anniversary of D-Day, representing the participation of First Nations and Métis soldiers in the Canadian campaign in Europe during World War II. He is featured in Veteran Stories, The Memory Project, where he shared a powerful account of his experiences as a Métis soldier. I quote, "If your buddies got hurt during that and the yelling and the crying, you couldn't stop. You had to keep going." To Mr. Goudon's family, I extend my sincere condolences on the loss of a great Canadian hero. His dedication and sacrifice for his country shall never be forgotten.
The Honourable Member for Kingston and the Islands.
Mr. Speaker, today I'm honoured to stand and recognize a member of my community, a 10-year-old named Lilia. Concerned about homeless people in our community being alone at one of her favourite times of the year, Lilia decided to raise money for them. She hand-painted season's greeting cards of gnomes and started selling them for $5 each. Her endeavour, Gnome for a Home, has received orders from people in Kingston, Montreal, Quebec, and even Paris. Her goal was to sell 100 cards by Christmas of 2018. However, she was able to sell 200 and raise $1,000. Lilia then took all the proceeds to Martha's Table, a not-for-profit agency in Kingston who helps provide meals for those in need. But it didn't stop there, Mr. Speaker. Lilia now has a new goal to sell 200 Valentine's-themed cards by February 14th. I am so proud to have such a determined and caring individual in my riding of Kingston and the Islands. Merci, Lilia, pour ton initiative pour aider les personnes sans abri.
Honourable member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, my community of Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge is home to many passionate organizations such as Alouette River Management Society, Kanaka Education and Environmental Partnership Society, the KT and Kwantlen First Nations, and indeed both the cities of Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows, who are working hard to protect our environment and waterways. Over the years, our waterways have been disconnected, creating challenges for those who depend on the well-being of the Alouette watershed. This week, I presented to the Ministry of Fisheries, Oceans and the Canadian Coast Guard my report advocating for safe fish passage for the Alouette Dam as well as the Kennedy Pump Station in Pitt Meadows. This report comes from 3 years of consultations, meetings and roundtables. Together, we are stressing the need to ensure that both of these projects are no longer obstacles. For our salmon to thrive, there should be no barriers to their life and spawning cycles. I look forward to working with the Minister to provide long-term solutions to ensure sustainability in our communities. There is no better time to act than now. Thank you.
Honourable member for Barrie Innisfil.
After 3 years of Liberal waste and failures, Canadians are no further ahead than they were in 2015. Adding to that, we've learned the Liberal carbon tax will cost a family of 4 up to $5,000 a year. Whoa. We found out from the Liberals' own documents that their carbon tax will be 15 times higher than it is now, and that they plan to implement this increase after the election. In fact, we've asked the Prime Minister several times this week about this plan, and each time we've asked, he didn't answer the question. I've heard from the people of Barrie Innisfil about how this tax grab will affect them and the costly impact it will have on businesses, mums and dads driving their kids to soccer and hockey and dance, and how it will drive up the cost of heating and eating on seniors, and they are rightly concerned. While many Canadians struggle just to get by, the Prime Minister won't have to worry about paying his carbon tax on the necessities of life because the millions in his trust fund will look after his family just fine.
The honourable member for Surrey Centre.
Mr. Speaker, over the winter I had the chance to attend many events in my riding of Surrey Centre that celebrated our diversity. However, the highlight was to host and celebrate a celebration of citizenship party. During the event, I had the opportunity to meet and speak and hear about the diverse backgrounds and journeys they all took and what it means to be Canadian. This event was an incredible opportunity to celebrate Canada's multiculturalism and diversity, the fabric of the great country. This event was a huge success with over 100 people attending, including children, seniors, parents, and siblings. All of them applauded Canada's new citizenship changes, which make it easier and simpler to become a citizen. Mr. Speaker, Surrey Centre is an incredibly rich community in terms of diversity. Since October 2015, we have welcomed over 2,500 new citizens from places such as India, the Philippines, China, Latin America, and Africa. I look forward to following their future endeavors, and I would like to thank them for choosing to call Surrey Centre home. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Guelph.
Mr. Speaker, as we come together in our new Parliament building, I also want to recognize an event that brings people together in Guelph. Earlier this month, the Muslim Society of Guelph hosted the 3rd annual Building Bridges event. With support from Canadian Heritage, this event celebrates Guelph's diversity and inclusion, led by the Muslim Society, along with members of other faith-based groups, NGOs, and cultural groups, to gain awareness of the important contributions and connections that build bridges between groups in our community. Mr. Speaker, there is unity in diversity, and we're all stronger when we celebrate our differences. I want to thank Mohammed Syed and his wife Sarah for their vision to bring Guelphites together to showcase our incredible community spirit. I know that building bridges has become an annual tradition that the whole community looks forward to. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well done.
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, look at the past can be an indication of what the future holds. In 2015, I read on social and traditional media that the Prime Minister was promising that the budget would be balanced by 2019. We ended up with a $20 billion deficit. He promised an open and transparent government, and yet the Prime Minister was the first to be found guilty of a breach of ethics. He promised a new way of doing things on the international stage, and then he went to India, and we became the laughingstock of the international community 3 years later. And I'm thinking that a fake news detector would have been useful for Canadians in 2015. This week, the Liberals refused to commit to balancing the budget by committing not to increase taxes. When they say they want the best for the middle class, you can believe them. Their history of mistakes and out-of-control spendings is clear. The Liberals are going to find their best for you by increasing taxes. Not only the Prime Minister, but all Canadians are going to be paying for his mistakes. And the only thing that will stop them is a Conservative government on October 21st. The Honourable Member for Ottawa-Vanier.
I rise today to congratulate the University of Ottawa and its 126 projects that will receive over $6 million in funding under the HoC Talent Program and Insight Development Grants. University of Ottawa is one of 79 universities to benefit from the $141 million to support close to 3,000 researchers at institutions across Canada.
These kinds of investments are extremely important for nurturing the talent of our next generation of researchers and sustaining healthy innovation in our country.
Its commitment to supporting research is fundamental to making decisions regarding our communities, our economy, our health, and future prosperity.
I'd like to congratulate all the University of Ottawa recipients, and I am convinced that their research will give us the necessary evidence to make well-thought-out decisions in the future.
Malahat Langford.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in my role as the NDP's agriculture critic to give recognition to the important role Canada's farmers can play in combating climate change. Farmers are on the front lines of climate change. Heat waves, forest fires, droughts, and floods can all bring about economic disaster to farms and have significant negative mental health effects for farmers. While the entire food supply system is one of the biggest contributors to climate change, it is a well-known fact that agroecological and agroforestry methods can improve the soil's ability to sequester carbon. In some scenarios, a well-managed hectare of soil can sequester between 10 and 20 tons of carbon from the atmosphere each year. Helping our farmers move towards alternative agroecological production systems can help maintain yields without sacrificing people and ecosystems. Agricultural methods that reduce our emissions while sequestering carbon will be a big part of the solution to combating destructive climate change, something I hope all political parties in this House will recognize.
For Carleton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Mr. Speaker, if re-elected, the Prime Minister will continue to increase taxes and make the lives of middle-class Canadians more expensive.
Shame.
The Liberals' carbon tax is already driving up prices, and it isn't even fully implemented. On April 1st, the cost of fuel is set to jump, increasing the cost of everything. The Prime Minister keeps arguing his carbon tax won't continue going up, but even his own caucus doesn't believe that. The higher the carbon tax is, one member said, the faster people may change behavior. Does that sound like someone who believes the carbon tax shouldn't increase? After failing to keep his promise of a balanced budget, the Prime Minister's words mean nothing. He has increased taxes on small businesses, tried to tax benefit plans, and is making families pay more in taxes before the carbon tax. This Prime Minister's plan will take more money from Canadians' wallets. Don't let him tell you otherwise.
Honourable Member for Edmonton Centre.
Tomorrow is the beginning of Black History Month.
On the remarkable contributions made by Black Canadians to our country, a time to learn from their diverse lived experiences and to share their stories. The Shiloh Centre for Multicultural Roots in Edmonton has done award-winning work in bringing some of these stories to life. With funding from the Alberta Human Rights Commission, their documentary titled The Roots explores the lasting legacy of Black settlers who fled racism in the United States to settle in the prairies. Mr. Speaker, this project has helped researchers to discover an entirely new scholarly body of research that sheds light on this important community in Alberta and across the prairies. On Monday, the Shiloh Centre was awarded the Governor-General's History Award for Excellence in Community Programming. May this project inspire us all to be vigilant in our efforts to end discrimination against Black Canadians once and for all.
Yes.
Questions orales, oral questions. The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Canadians are becoming more and more aware of the fact that they have a Prime Minister in charge of the finances of this country who has no idea whatsoever on how to manage a budget or keep a balance sheet. That's because he's never had to worry about his own. Nope. He's accustomed to lavish spending and the money always being there to pay his bills. Over the last year, the Prime Minister has been spending lavishly, and he expects Canadians will cover his costs. So when will the Prime Minister finally admit he's going to have to raise taxes to pay for his out-of-control spending?
Bill. Come on, Bill. The Honourable Minister of Finance.
We need to be clear. The very first thing that we did when we came into office was we lowered taxes on middle-class Canadians. Now, I imagine what's going on from the opposition Conservatives is they're remembering that they raised $150 billion into our debt. And they're feeling a little bit guilty about that and thinking that if they came back, they might want to raise taxes. Mr. Speaker, we would not do that because we are focused on helping the middle class and those people that are working to join it. And we've done that by reducing their taxes, by increasing their benefits like the Canada Child Benefit, making a real and long-term difference for Canadian families.
That's right.
Opposition House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Conservatives kept their word and we delivered a balanced budget to Canadians. That's because we, like Canadians, know that budgets don't balance themselves and that you can't spend your way out of debt. The only person who doesn't seem to know this is the Prime Minister, who just keeps spending and borrowing, spending and borrowing, spending and borrowing. We know that today's deficits will be tomorrow's taxes. Canadians are going to have to pay higher taxes for his out-of-control spending. So will he be honest, tell Canadians just how much he's planning on raising taxes on them after the next election?
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the facts are very inconvenient for the Conservatives. The facts are that they left us with an additional $150 billion worth of debt and no growth to go along with it. We decided that what we needed to do was invest in Canadians so that we could actually grow the economy and help Canadians across the country, and that is exactly what we've done. We've got the lowest unemployment rates we've seen in 40 years. We've got families who are $2,000 better off this year than they were under the previous government. So, Mr. Speaker, our approach, our plan is working, and we certainly don't want to go back to the bad old days of the austerity budgets that didn't actually get anywhere under the Conservatives.
The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
We've been asking the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance for the last year, when would the budget be balanced? Or as the Prime Minister likes to say, when would the budget balance itself? No answer. So we asked, do you have a plan to keep your word and balance the budget? No. Again, no answer. That's because the Prime Minister has never had to actually worry about money, and so he doesn't worry about Canadians' money. Why won't he just admit the only plan that he has is to keep spending like a celebrity on a shopping spree and give Canadians the tab to cover his bills?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
The good news for Canadians, especially for middle-class Canadians, is not only do we have a plan, but our plan is working. We moved immediately to lower taxes on middle-class Canadians. We increased the Canada Child Benefit, two measures that helped our economy to get going, reduced unemployment, and put people in a better situation. This is the sort of plan that works. The Conservative plan, on the other hand, was to leave us with an additional $150 billion worth of debt and to find us in a position where we had high unemployment, and they wanted to move us into austerity. Our plan is working. We know that we need to continue to help middle-class Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Mr. Speaker, the facts speak for themselves. When we were in government, we faced the worst economic crisis, and our government was the first to bring its country out of the G7 to come out of the crisis. And we left a surplus, and that was acknowledged by the PBO. Now, what did the Liberals do when they took power? They threw their campaign promises in the garbage because they're not balancing the budget. What are they waiting for? When will they balance the budget? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Our plan is very clear. We will continue to make investments for the middle class to improve their situations and to improve our economy. And our approach is working. We now have the lowest unemployment rate in the past 40 years. The average family with 2 children has $2,000 more in their pockets this year than in 2015. This is a plan that is working, and we will continue with this plan that is good for Canadians. The Honourable Member for Louis-Saint-Laurent. Mr. Speaker, I don't know if you have noticed, but each time we talk about deficits in one of our questions, the government never mentions the word deficit. And I understand that because they were elected and they said they would eliminate the deficit. They threw their plan out, and we don't have any idea when they're going to balance the budget again. Mr. Speaker, the minister likes talking about plans. What is his plan to return to a balanced budget? The Honourable Minister of Finance. It's very important to consider the situation that the Conservatives added $150 billion to the debt. That is a huge problem for the economy under the Conservatives. The growth rate was very bad. That was the situation. We have a plan to invest in the middle class, to improve their lot, and our plan is working. We are in a much better situation now with much lower unemployment rates, with a better situation for Canadian families. Our approach is working. The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Nejet-Témiscouata-Basque. Mr. Speaker, in 2015, the Liberals promised to eliminate subsidies to oil and gas. Canadians believed them. They promised to adequately consult Indigenous communities on projects affecting their land. Canadians believe them. Today, the PBO has confirmed that the Liberals paid too much for the Trans Mountain Pipeline, a $1 billion gift by taxpayers. And this is shortly after the federal court sent them back to the drawing board for their flawed consultation process that came from the Conservatives. When will they realize that when you get to the bottom of the hole, it's time to stop digging? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, the member has got it all wrong. We purchased the pipeline. It's a good thing for our economy. At the same time, it's a project that is good for business. We have found an approach that will help the economy, and it's a project that will be good for the economy. The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Nejet-Témiscouata-Basque. The PBO has said that the economy and the environment go hand in hand, but this project, Trans Mountain, is bad for both. The Liberals had promised to fight climate change, but they're battling with the Conservatives to see who's going to do more to defend the oil sector. They went back on their election promises. There's $4.5 billion to buy a pipeline and to put another $1 billion to expand it. The Liberals could have helped Alberta to develop a transition plan, not just for its industry, but for the economy and for workers. Why didn't they do that? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, we know that it's very important to have the capacity to take our resources to international markets. 99% of our resources at present are linked to the U.S., and so we need to have a way of gaining access to international markets. And that is why we've decided that it was important to buy the Trans Mountain Pipeline. The prix was competitive, and it was to ensure that our economy will be prosperous in the future. That is our approach.
For Skeena, Bulkley Valley.
A good price. The Liberals keep telling us how the environment and the economy must go hand in hand, but on the Trans Mountain disaster, the Liberals on the one hand are hammering the environment, and on the other hand are hammering our finances. Yep. The PBO reports that this Prime Minister panicked, overpaid a Texas oil company by $1 billion, and it's now costing Canadians an extra $700 million every year because because of the Liberals' flawed environmental assessment was tossed out of court. Well, the Liberals just stop this nightmare, stop throwing good money after bad, and finally start investing in the green economy like they actually promised Canadians they would.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
The member is wrong. What the parliamentary budget officer said was that, in fact, the purchase of the pipeline is positive for the economy. We want to make sure that those benefits accrue to all Canadians. What they also said was that there was, from their analysis, a range of potential purchase prices, and in fact our purchase price was right in the middle of their range. So clearly not only a good commercial purchase, but one that's going to be very positive for our economy. We believe that getting our resources to international markets so that 99% of our resources don't go to the United States is the right decision for Canada and for Canadians.
Honourable Member for Skeena Bulkley Valley. Order.
To see this guy at an auction, he'd just keep bidding against himself. They paid $4.5 billion for a 65-year-old pipeline. $700 million more lost every year because of their own failed review of, and these clients want to go out and spend another $15 billion building more pipelines than they don't even have a permit. What could possibly go wrong, Mr. Speaker? It's like the Prime Minister went out to buy a house, overpaid for it, didn't insist on a home inspection, and now the roof is leaking. They panicked, they got fleeced by a Texas oil company, and now we're on the hook for their failure. How many boil water advisories could be lifted? How many green jobs could be created? When are these guys...
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
I think we should just start with the fact that the member is incorrect. He actually didn't apparently read the report. What we know, though, most importantly, is that we see that it's important for us to have the capacity to get our oil resources to international markets. We are dependent on, right now, sending 99% of our resources to U.S. markets, and if there was ever a time where Canadians believe that it's important to diversify, now is that time. So this purchase is going to be good for the long-term health for our economy. It's obviously going to be good for our oil sector, and we believe that both those things are quite important.
Absolutely. Honourable Member for Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Yesterday, the National Airlines Council of Canada stated that the Liberal carbon tax will, quote, make air travel more expensive for Canadians and really will do nothing to help us reduce our emissions. Nothing. Unlike this Prime Minister, who inherited a vast family fortune, most Canadian families save for years to afford to fly. According to the Council, families will pay hundreds of dollars more to visit Grandma and Grandpa, making it unaffordable for many. Why do Canadians have to keep paying more for this Prime Minister's mistakes?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for her question. Had she attended the committee hearing of the same Environment Committee Monday, she would have seen that Stephen Harper's former Director of Policy gave testimony indicating that the most effective thing we can be doing to be bringing our emissions down is putting a price on pollution and returning the revenues to Canadian citizens. It's actually going to make life more affordable. I don't know why the Conservative Party seems committed to campaigning on a promise to take money from their constituents so pollution can be free in Canada.
For Edmonton Riverbend.
It's the Liberals who are making pollution free again by massive exemptions to industrial emitters and dumping sewage into the ocean. Right. The Prime Minister has no concept of managing money because he inherited, in his words, a great family fortune. According to his own government's documents, the Liberal carbon tax is expected to cost a family of 4 up to $5,000 a year. He's already introduced Bill C-69 and C-48. Can't build a pipeline. How does he expect that now struggling families are going to pay for this? When will this Prime Minister stop making Canadians pay for his mistakes?
Exactly. The Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Minister of the Environment.
How is the honourable member wrong? Let me count the ways, Mr. Speaker. Big emitters will pay under our system. That's why families are going to be better off. When the Conservative Party is lost and has no argument to present on their own, they resort to snide personal attacks against members on this side of the House. Politics deserves better. Mr. Speaker, we campaign on a commitment to grow our economy and protect our environment at the same time. We are putting a price on pollution that will bring emissions down, make life more affordable for Canadians. It's been 277 days since they've said they were going to come up with a plan, and so far their only plan is to mislead Canadians.
Honourable member for Carleton.
Well, the finance minister
Minister paid $4 billion for a $2 billion pipeline. Word is that he's now in the market for some oceanfront property in Arizona. And as for his carbon tax, it will be a lot more expensive than he admits as well. He received a briefing document in 2017 which said the tax would have to be much higher than the government admits. Based on other government figures, it could be as high as $300, which translates into a $5,000 per year bill for a family of four in Canada. So will he tell us now what is the full and final price of the Liberal carbon tax? The Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, the desperate scare tactics that the Conservative Party has resorted to are completely disingenuous. They know that we have never indicated once that we plan to move forward with a figure that anywhere close that he's talking about. We have been putting on our website, and I've told this member in the old chamber at Centre Block before, that Canadians are going to be better off. I note in his constituency, typical family of four can expect to receive $307, and he's going to be going to the polls in the next campaign with a commitment to take that money from his constituents. Mr. Speaker, we're going to bring emissions down, and we're going to make life more affordable for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Carleton. So that's the Liberal trade-off. We'll give you a $300 check before the election for a $5,000 bill after the election. Now, he suddenly disputes these numbers. In the year 2022, the tax rate is scheduled to go up. The minister has admitted that. The government documents have admitted that. And everyone else knows that it's true. The fact is they won't tell us by how much it will go up. The only figure that we can find in government documents is $300, and that translates into a $5,000 a bill. If that's wrong, what is the real price? The Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I'm glad the honourable member opposite has the same confidence I do that we're going to be in government after the next election. Is using astronomical figures in order to scare Canadians about the policies we're implementing to fight climate change. We're going to put forward a price on pollution that's going to return revenues to Canadian citizens that makes life more affordable for families. Mr. Speaker, it's no surprise you're opposing this policy. When we introduced the Canada Child Benefit to make life more affordable, they voted against it. When we introduced the middle class tax cut to make life more affordable, they voted against it. And when we put a price on pollution to make life more affordable for Canadians, they
say a tax makes life more affordable, but that tax is not even effective. According to the government's own documents, they will fall 80 million tons short of meeting their Paris targets. How will they fill the gap? According to the Environment Minister, quote, we will evaluate both the need for and opportunity of utilizing international credits. That's right, forcing Canadians to send billions of dollars to California and other jurisdictions to pay for the government's failures to meet its own targets. What is the full and final cost of buying international carbon credits under the Liberals' plan? Parliament Secretary to the Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, just to correct the record, the way that our system is going to work is we're putting a price on pollution and returning the revenues to citizens. 8 out of 10 Canadian families can expect to be better off, and the honourable member's constituents will receive in excess of $300 at tax time. Mr. Speaker, we are moving forward with a plan that doesn't just include a price on pollution to bring our emissions down. We're also making historic investments in public transit. By 2030, 90% of our electricity is going to be fueled by renewable resources. Mr. Speaker, we are phasing out coal over 30 years in advance of when the Conservative government would have. The reason they start throwing unfactual information forward is because it's been 277 days.
The Honourable Member for Carleton. And that is exactly what Kathleen Wynne said. She planned to spend $2.2 billion sending money to California for carbon credits. And the Auditor General of that province said, quote, these funds may be leaving the Ontario economy for no purpose other than to help the government claim it has met a target. Now we know where the carbon tax money will really go, outside of this country. So will he confirm how much will Canadians spend buying foreign carbon credits under the government's plan? Parliament Secretary to the Minister of the Environment.
I've said a number of times now, Mr. Speaker, that Canadians can expect to be better off as a result of our plan. It's clear the honourable member doesn't believe me, so I direct him to the testimony that was given by Mark Cameron, Stephen Harper's former Director of Policy. If he doesn't accept him, I direct him to Doug Ford's Chief Budget Advisor, who's told us previously...
Sorry, there's
just way too much noise. The questions have been put, and I'm sure that all honourable members will be interested to hear what the Parliamentary Secretary has to say, but it's just a little bit too loud for members to hear that. So we're going to go back and let the Parliamentary Secretary to the Ministry of the Environment finish up his comments, and then we'll get on to the next question.
Mr. Speaker, I'm glad you've given me the opportunity to provide some further information, because it's not just me who's putting this information forward. As I mentioned, Stephen Harper's former Director of Policy supports our plan. Doug Ford's Chief Budget Advisor has said the single most effective thing we can do to transition to a low-carbon economy is to put a price on pollution. Mr. Speaker, last year's Nobel Prize winner in economics has won the Nobel Prize for developing this kind of a plan. 47 economists, including former chairs of the Federal
The honourable member for Elmwood Transcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Columbus Housing Co-op offers safe, affordable housing to seniors in Elmwood, but not without its challenges. The riverbank near the building is eroding, and while if they had a leaky roof jeopardizing their units, they'd be able to apply for renovation funding, the rules prevent them from getting money to shore up the riverbank, Mr. Speaker. Their operating agreement is going to expire in several years, and while the Liberals promised a fix for this co-op and those like it, after 3 years, all we have is a Band-Aid to get them through the next election, Mr. Speaker. A proper national housing strategy would provide help and certainty to housing co-ops like Columbus, but that's not what the government's delivered, and I want to know, Mr. Speaker, how much longer they're going to have to wait.
Good question. The Honourable Minister of Families and Children and Social Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From day one, we announced that we believe that every Canadian has a right to a safe and affordable place to call home. I'm delighted to be able to answer this question. The member knows already how ambitious we will be in supporting cooperatives and non-for-profit housing providers in the future. We've done this since 2016. Our investments of $5.7 billion have helped 1 million families since 2016, but we look forward to doing this and for many other Canadians until we are able to fully implement our national housing strategy.
Member for Essex.
The key was in the future. Safe and affordable housing is a right, Mr. Speaker. Skyrocketing rents and ballooning home prices in Essex are making it impossible for people to keep a roof over their heads. People like Crystal's brother, Daryl, who was living in a tent because he was not able to find affordable housing. People like Fred's daughter, who is a single mother with 5 kids and living with him. The kids are sleeping in his living room because she can't find affordable housing. Instead of making up numbers to make themselves look good, what will the Liberals do for people like Daryl and Fred's daughter?
Honourable Minister for Families, Children and Social Development.
Speaker, we understand and indeed feel very much how important it is for all Canadians to have a right to access a safe roof, a safe place to live for seniors, for veterans, for people living with disabilities. We understand that, and that's why we have invested since 2016 over $5.7 billion in helping 1 million families. That's why over the next 10 years we'll be implementing the first ever national housing strategy, a 10-year, $40 billion plan, Mr. Speaker, because we believe exactly that Canadians have a right to have a safe and affordable place to live in.
Member for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, there was a case of déjà vu in an Ottawa courtroom today when a former Kathleen Wynne and current Liberal staffer was asking questions about lost emails. She appears to have been referring to Vice Admiral Norman as a, quote, certain naval officer in an attempt to sabotage his defense. This deliberate attempt to sabotage access to information requests is a political attack on Admiral Norman's right to a fair trial. Did anyone within the Prime Minister's office ever have discussions about delaying the trial of Vice Admiral Norman?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Order.
Mr. Speaker, all employees are required to maintain official records and to save them in an appropriate fashion. These policies are laid out very clearly in the Access to Information Act and in the related Access to Information Manual. The government takes those responsibilities very seriously.
For Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
That was not an answer to the question I asked, so I'll ask it again. Did anyone within the Prime Minister's office ever have discussions about delaying the trial of Vice Admiral Norman?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Speaker, on the 11th of May in 2015, the Honourable Peter Van Loan said this: members are expected to refrain from discussing matters before the court or under judicial consideration in order to protect those involved in a court action or judicial inquiry against any undue influence through the discussion of the case. Minister Van Loan was saying avoid undue influence. Apparently the opposition is in favor of it.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, that's a line to answer, but we have information coming from a trial that's currently underway in Ottawa, and we've learned that there was an approach by political staffers that's not normal. So, can we know if someone from the Prime Minister's office ever had discussions on delaying Vice Admiral Norman's trial? The Honourable Minister.
The official opposition continues to defy the advice of Mr. Van Loan. He said that the practice that is called the sub judice convention applies to debates, to statements, to question period. It is deemed improper for a member in posing a question and improper for a minister in responding to a question to comment on any matter that is before the courts. The previous Harper government took that position 300 times.
The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, what's appropriate here is to have the truth. There's attempts to sabotage or to camouflage information regarding Admiral Norman. So we want to know, can the Minister tell us if someone in the Prime Minister's office discussed delaying Vice Admiral Norman's trial? The Honourable Minister.
There is a legal proceeding before the courts. The courts are being managed by very distinguished judges. Both sides have competent counsel to represent them in the proceedings. Mr. Speaker, under our Constitution, those matters are dealt with in the courts of Canada, not on the floor of the House of Commons. This is not the Court of Star Chamber.
Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Last week, I met a constituent, a single mother, who's raised her son working 2 jobs to make ends meet. She sacrificed everything so her son can go to university. She's had to move 4 times because of rent eviction and lives in constant fear she'll lose her current home. She's been on the housing wait list for 4 years and has no idea where she'll go next. How can the Prime Minister hear these stories and not understand the urgency of the housing crisis? Why is he patting himself on the back but making my constituent wait?
The Honourable Minister of Families, Children and Social Development.
Mr. Speaker, and of course we're never happy, but it's important to remind ourselves of the difficult circumstances in which many of our families live, and that includes women living in difficult circumstances, sometimes in conditions of family violence. And if I may quote, Mr. Speaker, the reaction of the YWCA when the historic National Housing Strategy was launched a few months ago, a gender lens of the National Housing Strategy is a game changer for women and girls in Canada.
The Honourable Member for Timmins, James Bay.
Prime Minister bragged at his response to the Cat Lake crisis to lift the long-term boiled water advisory. But what he didn't say was it was on one building on a well at the edge of town. And with 100% of the homes facing fire risk from bad electrical and poor stove, the Minister's staff, the Minister of Indigenous Affairs staff, said that they would ship them light switch covers. I kid you not, a grab bag from Home Depot is his response. So would the Minister please come out from under the desk and tell us, is he serious? Is that the plan? Is he even ready to deal with a crisis like Cat Lake? Tell us.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Indigenous Services.
Our government is working closely with Cat Lake to make vital improvements to the community infrastructure. Last year, we funded 2 comprehensive inspections to assess the state of their infrastructure. Following Cat Lake's housing declaration, the Minister and the Chief agreed that the next step should be a meeting between senior officials and the community to develop action plans going forward. That meeting occurred yesterday, and we look forward to working with Cat Lake on a plan moving forward.
Honourable Member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has the most highly educated workforce among the OECD countries. Last week in my riding of Kelowna Lake Country, I was pleased to announce nearly $16 million in infrastructure funding for the University of British Columbia, Okanagan. Can the Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development please tell this House how the government is supporting our post-secondary institutions in producing world-class students?
Great job. Honourable Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member from Kelowna Lake Country for being a great champion for his residents and the businesses in his community. He's absolutely correct. The $16 million investment will help students to get the right skills that they need for the jobs of today and for the jobs of tomorrow as well. And this is part of our government's overall plan, $2 billion investments through a post-secondary infrastructure program to invest in our post-secondary institutions. This means more jobs, more growth, and more opportunities and middle-class opportunities for individuals living in Kelowna Lake Country.
The honourable member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, it's disgusting to see yet another Liberal fundraising scheme. Just more evidence the Prime Minister and his Liberal team see themselves as being above the law and rules of ethics. The Liberal member for Brampton East raised $600,000, and nobody will say how he did it. Mr. Speaker, true to Liberal form, did anyone gain preferential access to the Innovation Minister or any other minister at this fundraiser? The Honourable Minister of Democratic Affairs.
Strictest rules with regards to fundraising, and this side of the House has been following them, Mr. Speaker, since even before they came into effect this January. Mr. Speaker, we're aware that members opposite have had some with the Leader of the Opposition that has not been made public, Mr. Speaker, and so we encourage all parties in this House to ensure that they abide by those rules, open them up, have the media present, and let Canadians see what they're talking about. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, try as the Liberals may to look as pure as the driven snow, it's obvious they're dodging questions about the Liberal member for Brampton East's fishy fundraising schemes, which brought in $600,000 to the Liberal Party coffers. Mr. Speaker, we may have changed buildings, but it's still the same old Liberal scheming. What are we going to learn this time about their fundraising methods? Who attended? And what are the Liberals still hiding? The Honourable Minister of Democratic Institutions.
I'm glad to be able to rise in this House to remind all members about the strict fundraising rules that we have here in Canada, whether it's for an electoral district association or whether for a political party. All donations are disclosed to Elections Canada, Mr. Speaker. And let me remind all members in this House that Bill C-50 enacted the strictest and most open and transparent fundraising rules for leaders of political parties, and I would encourage all of the political parties to ensure that they're abiding by that and open up their fundraisers to the media, to Canadians, so that we all know what they're talking about.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals claim they've cleaned up all of their fundraising practices. Yesterday, the Prime Minister claimed that the Liberals now follow all of the rules, openness, transparency, and accountability. But the PM still stonewalls on questions linked to the former Liberal member for Brampton East. Questions of gambling addiction, money laundering, outside employment, the India trip, RCMP investigation, and the member's $600,000 fundraiser when he was still a Liberal. Mr. Speaker, what are the Liberals hiding?
Honourable Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Again, I remind this House that it was this government that brought in Bill C-50. It was this government that brought in the most open, transparent fundraising rules with regards to political leaders in Canadian history. It was this government, Mr. Speaker, that began following those rules even before they came into effect, Mr. Speaker. But we know, Mr. Speaker, that the Leader of the Opposition had a fundraiser, did not open it up to the media, did not tell Canadians what he was talking about. What was he hiding, Mr. Speaker? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, all Conservative contributions are disclosed on the Elections Canada website. Let's get back, though, to the Liberal Brampton $600,000 undisclosed. Who attended the fundraiser? Were ministers there? Were lobbyists in attendance under the Liberals' sneaky Laurier Club dispensation?
Where did the funds go? The bumptiously claimed $600,000. How many checks were unacceptable under Elections Canada regulations? Who are these Liberals protecting, Mr. Speaker? What are they hiding?
The Honourable Minister for Democratic Institutions.
Speaker, the member opposite is conjecting things. I mean, we know that Elections Canada has very strict rules. We have strict fundraising rules, strict financing rules here in Canada. All donations made to electoral district associations, to political parties, are disclosed to Elections Canada. If it's over $200, Mr. Speaker, it's on Election Canada's website. We can all look at that for every member and every political party represented in this House, Mr. Speaker. It's as clear as that. Thank you.
Courtney Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, Pacific herring is the prime food source for endangered Chinook salmon, which in turn is the prime food source for the endangered southern resident killer whales. It's a crucial part in the Salish Sea ecosystem. 32,000 British Columbians have already signed a petition to shut down the Pacific herring roe fishery with the support of local First Nations. If a moratorium is not enforced to protect this critical food source and to allow the stocks to rebuild, we're endangering these interdependent species. Will the Minister do his due diligence and immediately place a moratorium on the herring roe fishery?
Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Decisions with respect to fisheries are based on science and evidence. There are 5 different herring fisheries areas off of the BC coast. 3 of them are presently closed. 1 is open for a commercial fishery. It is based on the abundance of the stock that exists there. And as I say, we make our decisions based on science.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagot. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised on live television on the Téléjournal in 2016 to boost EI sickness benefits. Since then, radio silence from the Liberals. Melanie Pelletier, a constituent of mine, lost her life's savings after 15 weeks of sickness. Like hundreds of thousands of people who are sick and in this situation, she's stressed out and exhausted. How are you supposed to get better? Because 15 weeks is not enough and the Liberals know it. So when are they finally going to keep their promise and boost EI sickness benefits? The Honourable Minister of Family, Children and Social Development. This gives me an opportunity to speak to this very important issue, important to families and workers struggling with serious health issues and parental responsibilities and other factors that affect their quality of life. And I'm happy to remind the House, Mr. Speaker, that since 2016 we have put in place major measures to improve all the EI programming around these issues. We have a lot more to do, and we're looking forward to doing so.
Rocky Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, when Canadians fill out their taxes, they only have to fill out one form unless they live in Quebec. In Quebec, the system is so complicated that most Quebecers have to hire an accountant to do the paperwork. Well, the Prime Minister can afford an accountant due to his vast family fortune, but for everyone else, this is a waste of money and extra bureaucracy. A single tax return would simplify life for Quebecers. Why won't the Prime Minister actually listen to Quebecers and give them a single tax return?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Under the Harper government, for 10 years, they had 10 years to help Canadians and Quebecers with their tax filings, and what did they do? They cut, Mr. Speaker, they cut services, they cut positions without assessing the consequences. Chop, chop, chop. Mr. Speaker? Inaudible. On our side, we are going to continue to invest in services to make a real difference in the lives of all Quebecers and Canadians. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. When you genuinely want the best for families, instead of looking for excuses and fear-mongering, you look for real solutions, Mr. Speaker. There's a clear consensus around a single tax return. All Quebecers, the Premier, the National Assembly, everyone's in favor, except Liberal members who are currently making life hard for Quebecers. Why are they so stubborn about this? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. It's ironic that the Conservatives are holding themselves out to be the great champions of cutbacks, and now they're willing to pay more for work that the CRA is already doing. What is the Conservatives' actual plan? Are they expecting Quebecers to harmonize with the rest of Canada, or expecting the rest of Canada to adopt Quebec's definition of revenue? I'm wondering if they're going to say the same sort of things in Toronto and Calgary, Mr. Speaker. Here on this side, we're going to continue investing on behalf of Canadians and Quebecers. The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. This Liberal government is so accustomed to seeing Quebecers as a threat that they won't even talk about them. They say whatever we say here, we'll say it all across the country. In Winnipeg, Calgary, whatever. We want an administrative arrangement that will allow Quebecers to have just one tax filing instead of two. It's simple. It's an administrative agreement. We did this with the GST, and it's working very well. We have confidence in Quebec. We trust Quebecers. Why do the Liberals not trust Quebec and Quebecers when it comes to a single tax return? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives under Harper and those of today, it's 6 of one, half dozen the other. They have two types of promises. One type of promise that they make for Quebec, and then promises they make for the rest of Canada. Divide and conquer. That's their tactic. It's the same tactic they used up until 2015. When it comes to a single tax return, I would invite my Conservative colleagues to do like the NDP, to do their homework.
The honourable member for Humber River, Black Creek.
Mr. Speaker, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police is an important part of Canada's national identity. With 145 years of history and indispensable service, we know every day the RCMP put their safety at risk to protect and help all Canadians. But they also deserve to feel safe and respected at work. Can the Minister of Public Safety update the House on the work he is doing to advance cultural change within this organization?
Public Safety.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Speaker, the RCMP and its employees deserve to feel safe and respected at work. To that end, we are implementing all 13 recommendations from the Civilian Review and Complaints Commission and from Sheila Fraser, including immediate steps to establish a management advisory board to provide Commissioner Lucky with expert advice and support in leading the force through a vital period of transformation and cultural change. Maintaining a modern, healthy, inclusive workplace is not a single event. It's a process that must be relentlessly pursued, and we are.
For Selkirk, Interlake Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday we learned due to the Liberals' fake capability gap, taxpayers are now on the hook for an extra $18 million to stay in the F-35 program. So let's get this straight. The Liberals are buying old Australian fighter jets we don't need to fill a capability gap that doesn't exist, and now we're paying tens of millions of dollars on a plane the Prime Minister said he would never buy. Mr. Speaker, why do Canadians always have to pay for the Prime Minister's mistakes?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to making sure that the Royal Canadian Air Force has the equipment that it needs. Unlike the previous government, we will not neglect our NORAD and NATO commitments. And we have directed the department to prepare options to actually improve the combat capabilities of the CF-18s. And we will make sure that we not only have the right aircraft to fulfill our missions, but making sure we have the right future fighter aircraft with our competition, that it's ongoing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Député de Belleuil-Chambly.
The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, disappointed and frustrated by this Liberal government's refusal to listen, the Mayor of Otterburn Park presented me with a petition signed by thousands of constituents against the TELUS Tower in a protected area. What's worse, we've seen emails from a senior official that refer to my political affiliation and the election results in a briefing note to the Minister. My question is, does the Minister think this kind of political meddling on a matter of such importance to my community is appropriate? The Honourable Minister of Innovation and Science.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for the question. It's a very important issue. I'll work with the member to address the problems that he has raised. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Glengarry Prescott Russell. Mr. Speaker, northern, rural, and remote communities like mine are dynamic and brimming with potential, but our local economies are struggling because employers can't find enough workers to fill all the vacancies. That's why my colleagues and I have asked the Minister of Immigration to find a way to attract and retain more immigrants in communities located outside the big cities.
And acted, Mr. Speaker. Could the Minister please update this House?
The Honourable Immigration Minister.
Prescott Russell for sa question.
I'd like to thank the member for Glengarry Prescott Russell for his question.
Our country's economy, our new rural and northern immigration pilot program will ensure that immigration and its economic benefits are felt right across the country, especially in communities that are facing labor shortages and population decline. I encourage those communities to apply by March 1st. Our government is committed to making sure that we harness the economic potential of immigration to create good middle-class jobs, both in large cities as well as smaller towns. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, all of us were shaken by the terrible terrorist attack in the Philippines on the weekend. Christians at prayer were killed as a bomb exploded in their midst. Another attack occurred this week, this time at a mosque. We express our solidarity with all those who are grieving. Can the government update the House on any engagement they have had with the government of the Philippines on this issue, including support for their ongoing fight against radical extremism?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, our government and I believe all Canadians are absolutely of the view that religious freedom is an essential part of human rights, and these are freedoms we should enjoy not only in Canada but around the world. We are very engaged with our partners around the world in protecting the religious freedom of all people, whether they be Christian or Muslim.
The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, I tabled a very straightforward bill with a clear purpose to allow newcomers to Quebec seeking citizenship in Quebec to integrate into their adoptive society. And in order to integrate, you have to be able to communicate. In Quebec, the common language is French. What's the Liberals' problem with the fact that the common language in Quebec is French? The Honourable Minister of Family and Children. Mr. Speaker, in 2015, during my first election campaign, Canadians had a choice between the politics of fear and division under the former Harper government or the positive, forward-looking, optimistic, inclusive policies of this government, because in Canada and Quebec, our differences are a source of strength and pride. Canadians understand that, and Quebecers from my riding too. The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. The Liberals don't understand what a common language is. The Liberals and probably the Conservatives and some NDPers have decided that the debate on sufficient knowledge of French will not take place. They want to talk about this as little as possible. For its part, the Government of Quebec is proposing that newcomers to Quebec who want permanent residency should have adequate knowledge of French. Is the Minister of Heritage supportive of the Legault government's desire to require newcomers to have an adequate knowledge of French?
For families and children.
Mr. Speaker, Canada continues to be a welcoming country that is open, and this goes way back in Quebec when the chief of the Huron Nation, Wendat Nation, welcomed Jacques Cartier. So Canada has always been open, and it will continue to remain so, Mr. Speaker.
Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituents, indeed all British Columbians, are irate at the money laundering scandal that went on BC government-owned casinos. $1 billion a year was laundered through those casinos from drug profits, illicit gambling, extortion, and it fueled directly the housing crisis and the opioid crisis. My question to this government is, what did the RCMP know? Why did they turn a blind eye? Are we looking into it?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure, as always, to respond to a question from my honourable colleague. Our government takes the threat posed by money laundering and organised crime to Canada's national security and the integrity of our financial sector very seriously. We're taking action to combat this by enhancing the RCMP's investigative and intelligence capabilities, Mr. Speaker, both in Canada and abroad. And our Financial Intelligence Unit further helps protect Canadians and our financial system. Specifically in reference to British Columbia, Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Organised Crime and Border Security met recently with both Dr. Peter German and BC's Attorney General David Eby about how to reduce instances of money laundering in British Columbia and all across Canada. We promise Canadians we take action, Mr. Speaker, and that's exactly what we're doing.
That will conclude oral questions, question period for today. I see the honourable member for Edmonton West on a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, if the House allows it, I'd like to submit a document from the Library of Parliament showing the full-time equivalents for the Canada Revenue Agency. It will show that actually under the Liberal government, they chopped 800 jobs when they took over, and a further forecasting, according to the departmental plans, to chop another 800 jobs.